Tami, we'll turn the time over to you.
All right, I am so happy that we can continue on our cottage meetings, and I wore my Beware the Mama Bear because they're coming after our kids, and so it's our responsibilities as mamas and grandmas to be able to educate. And so today the lesson is called Ladies First, and that is so important that we understand who we are. So we just had general conference, and we learned that we are divine daughters and sons of our heavenly parents. And when we try to find out what our purpose here is on earth, especially in the winding up scenes of the second coming, it will help us stay more focused on the things that we need to be doing. Okay, so this is us again. I just wanted to make sure if you wanted to take a picture, or you can get my screenshot. On Facebook, we are Utah Moms for America, and then there's another one that you have to ask. We're trying to get it public right now. And then Utah Moms for America Action. And Instagram is utah.moms with the number 4 America. And then the other one is Moms for America Utah.action. True Social is Utah Moms for America. And then on Rumble and X is The Mom View. And that's at 10 o'clock in the morning. So that's you guys right there. Thank you for being Queen Esther. I guess I better turn this off too. Okay. So, the mother is the one supreme asset of national life. She is more important by far than the successful statesman, businessman, artist, or scientist. Theodore Roosevelt. So, I make cottage meeting wisdom bites, and there's 3 of them, but they usually have music, and they scroll through, and then they end with the 4 things that we learned and anchored our hope, be anchored in hope, our cottage meeting 1. So I'll read the first one. The Cottage Meeting Project is so successful in creating a foundation of liberty. It begins with women and is centered in the home. We know from our own experience that as you participate in this program, you will gain a wealth of knowledge and understanding that will infuse you with hope and inspire you with direction. Every day I teach a Moms for America Cottage Meeting class. The first 12 really were inspired by God, is to inspire you with hope, to empower you with power, to know that God's got us. Because if you are infused with hope, then your children will feel your energy of hope, and your husband will feel that energy, and so goes the home, so goes your kids and your husband, and then so goes the community, and so goes the nation. Okay? So, as cottage meeting groups continue to form throughout the nation, we will strengthen our communities and create networks of freedom and virtue. So our second lesson, we talked about faith, virtue, and patriotism. So the object now of Moms for America is to speak of solutions. We want solutions to be able to help save America, save our children, okay? And so the object is to speak of solutions and reassurance and redirect the attention of mothers and fathers to the true source of hope in America. We must understand that a people who are filled with fear and panic can easily be persuaded, but a people well anchored in hope cannot be overcome. So don't look at the fearful thing that you're seeing in the news. Be anchored in hope and look beyond the mark and look at, Jesus in the scriptures. Jesus has no fear in him. So let's look beyond that and just be anchored. See yourself as an anchor, okay? So I passed around kitchen table lobby on our momsforamerica.us. If you want to know what's going on nationally, you can click on legislation and see that we are for family, freedom, food, and finance. Okay? So this little Q code I would take a picture of, okay? If you want to share it with your friends, when there's people that do marketing, they always say, share it with 5 friends. But this is the Q code for a live Liberty chat or connection. The first class will be taught on October 15th, and it's with Julene Jackson. And we're going to be just always introducing moms. We're hoping to grow. We want to turn Utah right now, they want to turn purple, right? But we want to turn purple with Moms for America, because what Kimberly says is that purple is royal. We want to take back our symbols and our colors, take back the rainbow. It means a covenant, right? And also red, white, and blue mix is purple. So we are patriotic mothers who believe in Jesus Christ and will boldly teach about Jesus Christ with liberty, or we won't have liberty, right? And so every Tuesday, starting on the 15th, there'll be a live Liberty chat. And if you want to feel connected, or if you have people in other states, they can also join us, okay? The third one, October 30th, is this book here. And it's called Women's America's Last Best Hope. And it's by our CEO and President, Kimberly Fletcher. And it's just, we start a Zoom class. It's going to open up to the nation. And we're just teaching a book that goes with the cottage meeting. So this goes with cottage meeting 3 because it's about women, ladies first. And the next month, November, is Foundation of Faith. And Katie Malovich said she wanted to teach the light and the glory. And the next month is a Gerald Lund book, The Alliance. And I don't have anybody who wants to volunteer for that one yet, but if someone wants to teach that class and lead that book club, let me know. Any of the rest, I don't have volunteers. So if you'd like to be part of teaching on Zoom, and it will go to the nation, we'll have our state liaisons and group leaders will be invited to join so that we can feel empowered. The more we meet together like this in person, it's not as powerful as Zoom, but in 2020, that's when we started going on Zoom. It's still, we were able to reach by Zoom, right? More women. So coming up, we just had the Naked Capitalist class last night. I think it was the 5th class. So we have a few more left. It's at 6 p.m. And then on the 14th is Engaging the Spiritual Community in Education. They're talking about how to connect with pastors or churches and able to change the narrative in our education. Until Trump gets in office and we destroy the unconstitutional NEA, National Education Association, and get them out of education, we should not have ever had it happen. Then we've got to be able to figure out how to control it, either by homeschooling or what President Ezra Taft Benson said when I decided to homeschool, and it was over 25 years ago. I took hope through President Ezra Taft Benson that he said the last stage you'd end up having to homeschool. So we know that's one of the, make our own clothes, our own movies, because they get so bad. Mm-hmm. We're there. But if you want some help, we will help you. Our resources on our website is so fabulous. And so this October 21st, they're talking about a mom who's been there. So if you have your daughter's homeschooling and they're really frustrated because I had 4 boys I was homeschooling at once. And I figured out how to have, one-on-one time by assigning one boy to always be with the other boy and play, but how to deal with behavior. I had to shut the TV off. And if I had to change the laundry, they would turn on the TV and I'd come back and it would be a battle. So I just told my husband, no more TV. And miraculously, in 2008, when I moved here, when we put TV back on, I was like, boy, every commercial is about Big Pharma. Whoa, everything had changed and now they control the narrative, right? All right, so this is an exciting class starting the 24th. You'll want to go to register for it. This little app right here in the corner, I would download this app, and if you sign on it, you can be one of the 36,000 women that when they say, hey, the SAVE Act, we need you to call or text, they'll send it to you, and then you can be part of doing the federal stuff right here on this app. And also when you click on this app, you can easily click on register for faith, freedom, and folklore. And Julina's going to be teaching about the Thanksgiving, the true Thanksgiving and things like that. And so it's going to be an exciting 4-week class, October 24th, the 31st, November 4th, and the 14th. So they remind you, if you sign up and register and you can't do the time, at least you get the recording and then you can go back and listen to it before they put it. If you want to see the Naked Capitalist class, you just go under events, and then you can find it under, no, not events. This is events. Go under webinars, and you can find her Teen Teaching with Al, the Naked Communist class, okay? And save the dates. We have, they haven't told me what it's called, but it's called Utah Kickoff, Moms for America Kickoff. It's at Calvary Mountain View Church in AF the first day and the 24th. They're going to have speakers. Kimberly is going to be here. Julian's going to be here and speak. And then on the 25th is amazing. It usually costs a lot of money, but I think we get to do it for free, is leadership training. And they come and teach us how to be more comfortable to speak in front of the camera or to speak with our legislators and to help with action items. And if you're interested in that, that will be on the 25th. I'm going to be having a table at Firm Foundation on the 24th, 25th, and 26th. And I'll be teaching, I think, at 12:30 on the 24th for 45 minutes. And then Robin is now the new state liaison, and she'll be teaching the 26th. And they just changed our time, so I didn't memorize it. I'm now the National Outreach Coordinator for Cottage Meetings, working with Jolene so that we can grow and have 50 state liaisons. So when we go up to the Capitol for action stuff, when a state like Alaska says, well, do you have a mom that is an actual state liaison in Alaska? We can say yes. We have moms that just use the curriculum in Alaska, but so far we haven't found one that will step up and be the state liaison. We're going to work on that so that by 2026, all of our states will have state liaisons and state directors. The state directors work with action, and the state liaisons work with creating cottage meetings and using the curriculum. Okay? Okay, so this is the passcode if you want to copy the passcode, how to get on the Zoom ID. Or you can, there's a pink thing going around that says join the movement. Do you see a little pink? Oh, it's right here. It's not going around yet. No. You can put on there that you want to take this October 30th class. If you want to volunteer at the table for Firm Foundation, the 24th, 25th, or 26th, please write that on there and say what date. Because you can take turns with, if there's 2 people at the table, one could go watch a class and one can sit at the table. And you can take turns and you get in with the money I paid to have the table. Okay? So I can't be in all places at once. So hopefully we learn the law of sacrifice. Everything that I do with this organization is because I believe that we were foreordained for such a time as this. I really do. I believe all of us are here for a reason. And I believe by, Jesus' last thing he did before he suffered in the Garden of Gethsemane was to wash the feet of his apostles to show that a servant is a leader. And so I do everything that I can to serve so I can empower you. Because the talk that hit my heart the most with President Nelson was after he taught us the spiritual treasures talk and said that we're empowered, right? Then he said, with a plea to my sisters, he said that we need better informed or prepared, that's what cottage meetings are for. Women, but then they have to be courageous. And I'm like, I'm used to teaching high school. I have 5 kids. I homeschool, but I taught high school for 6 years, and I feel more comfortable in front of younger people than my same age. And I'm like, to go and speak up at the Capitol, I had to really throw out my courage, get rid of my fear, and believe I can do all things through Jesus Christ. And so what President Nelson said in that, a plea to my women, he said that we need women who are better prepared, that in a sin-sick world, who's willing to speak up and speak out and be courageous. And then the last part that really touched my heart is he said, or the world will never recover. And that makes me get rid of my fear, because I'm going to have my new first grandbaby next Wednesday. She's due. It's a super full moon, so I won't get to be here next week, but I'll be on Zoom. So, but I'm super excited that you guys are part of this, right? And this is our 20th anniversary. I want you to see about moms, the testimonies about moms, and how important it is that you are the divine conduit for Heavenly Mother and Heavenly Father's children. And here it is.
Where would any of us be without our moms? We wouldn't exist without our moms. We are as close to losing it right now as we ever have been in the 246 years of our existence. And the only thing that's going to keep us from losing it is we the people. And a big part of we the people is we the moms, right?
What moms do in their homes impacts the world in its entirety. It's your role as a mother to fight for your children.
What Moms for America, what they are doing is phenomenal. And I'm sorry, I said ladies and gentlemen, if I use your own pronouns, I don't care.
Let's welcome Jim Caviezel, our Champion of Freedom recipient.
Mothers and grandmothers play a critical role in nurturing and bringing forward the family.
We will champion truth. We will walk by faith. We will be forever grateful for this calling, the honor and the role of being a mom.
There is power in being a mom because we truly care. Nobody's going to care more about your children than you. And that's what this group is about, is real women getting together to fight real battles for our country.
So take the time, get out there, show up and make your voice heard. And organizations like Moms for America is so important because they can help you organize.
You can't push anything on our kids. We will stand up for our kids no matter what the consequences may be.
I was unaware of how gender ideology, which is this lie that kids are being taught, that you choose your gender identity, that you can choose to be a boy, a girl, neither or both, is being, pushed and infiltrated in public schools all over our country.
The unions are not teachers. They aren't even a union in the traditional sense. Who are they? They're communists. They're exploiting teachers to get a handle on your kids, to get their minds and to get their bodies. It's sick. We need to call them what they are. Demons. And they're doing the work of the devil.
And don't ever get discouraged because you are the mother that God gave them and that is responsible for their future. You can do it, Mom. You are a powerhouse.
This is the issue that everything else will rise and fall on. If we don't deal with the crisis of 3/4 of our children being indoctrinated to hate their families, hate the church, hate God, and hate their country, we're going to lose all of it. So we've got to deal with it.
The fact that the abortion movement says that an abortion is between a woman and her doctor is laughable. These women never see a doctor. They never talk to a doctor. They never even talk to a medical professional. They don't even talk to a nurse.
Here's what people need to know in this audience and anybody who's tuning into this. You are all targets of what we call medical trafficking through the COVID experience.
This whole weekend was phenomenal.
It was 3 formidable days. I have learned so much.
We got to meet a lot of people, a lot of networking with moms all over the country.
It's very inspiring to see all these mothers that I can look up to that's been through the same things I'm going through.
They had top speakers that were just encouraging.
Now I'm really motivated.
These past 3 days were wonderful. I learned so much. In learning about politics, learning about our country, learning about history can change what is going on right now.
In order for us to stand as a nation, we have to keep faith in there.
We do.
We have to keep real, unadulterated faith in Christ Jesus to be able to stand against what we're fighting against.
A constitutional republic does not survive
Patriot
unless
Academy
we
is
people
amazing.
are involved in the system and holding our leaders accountable.
History has been changed by people who are unwilling to quit.
She's a congresswoman.
Fletcher, a face of bravery. But all of us need to understand that we need to put a face to those brave people, those brave in our communities.
Kimberly Fletcher is an absolute national treasure, in my opinion, doing God's work. You guys keep supporting them with everything you got, and I will too.
Moms for America is one of the most important organizations in saving our republic.
So we are on a culture-changing mission, and we are ready to turn the world around. And you are the freaking awesome rock stars who are going to make it happen.
Courage has a face, and it looks just like you. Don't just say I love America, act on it.
February. She's going to be starting to do these summits every year in Dallas. And the last woman who says, don't just say I love America, but act on it, she got to speak at the RNC. And she's Moms for America Action. We just started that a year ago. It's 504C. And didn't that make you so excited to understand that we're being honored? Moms are being honored, and we have power, okay? All right, so if you have friends or anybody that want to do a cottage meeting hostess like Colette, make sure you reach out to me. And then I want to read this last thing here with, right here. So it says, there's no place like home to restore hope in America. Whether, this is our group, gathers in a home or a library or community center. So now we're going to be gathering at Sage and Plow for the 5,000 elite class with ages 12 and up. So if you have granddaughters or grandsons that want to take the class, I'm securing the date with the owner, and we'll start that right away. Simply by meeting weekly or once a month, you'll have more understanding of the principles of liberty and the Constitution than the majority of the elected officials, the lawyers, and the judges in this country. That's why Cleon Skousen was told to write those books, because people were in D.C. and didn't understand the documents, that our founding documents. So, more than ever before, we need women of faith, virtue, patriotism, and charity. We need women who will defend and protect the family at all costs. We need women who want to be we don't need women who want to be like men, sound like men, or act like men. We need women who rejoice in their womanhood, know their divine nature, their value, and the eternal destiny. Above all, we need women who will stand up for truth and righteousness and decry evil at every harm. We need to be brave enough to call out the evil.
And we're grateful for our real men.
Yes, so this is Amanda Templeman, and she runs almost as long a group.
She used to be here.
She started here, was encouraged. So that's why I'm saying, if you want to start another group in your place, or have your, help your daughter start a group, or daughter-in-law start a group, this is Amanda Templeman's testimony about the Healing of America series that we have all done a couple times.
Numerous times.
Mm-hmm. This is just.
I can honestly say that these cottage meetings and the Healing of America course has changed my life and how I was going to parent and just kind of the direction I was going with my family. And I can say for sure that there is power in being a mother, because not that my husband wasn't on the same page, but it wasn't really on his radar. And now he is very much he supports completely. He's actually a delegate in our district. He attended our county convention last week. He's attending our state convention on Saturday. So it's just kind of changed the course of our lives. We've chosen to be really involved in our community, and then it's also affected where and how we've schooled our children. But we really do follow those points from Ezra Taft Benson on making family time, quality family time, looking to God as our source in all that we do, and really studying the Constitution.
And isn't that beautiful? So I've been inspired all these years by what we've done.
I can honestly say that.
Okay, so on Moms for America Action, we have endorsed President Trump, and we did endorse him locally for Utah Moms for America. And then Anna Benson is our new Hispanic outreach coordinator. We have 30% Hispanics right now in Utah, and she's a state director with that. And she has brought on a woman named Gabriela, and she's from Cuba. And she's just 19 years old, has that's Annie. I think she's a little older, maybe 21. And she has a 5-month-old baby, and she was on a Zoom call with us and told us about how horrific Cuba was, that some babies were dying for lack of food. And so mothers, instead of letting their baby die, would sell their bodies so that they could get food to feed their babies, and how horrible it was. And immediately, Kimberly said, I need you here October 15th. We're doing this panel with J.D. Vance. It's going to be held in Lafayette Hill, Pennsylvania. But with Moms for America, because we've made connections with people that are important, we can try to get the word out. And I'm Tami Liberty, one word, on True Social, because I've been over the target too much, and I still can't post on Facebook for myself. I have to be a fake person there. So, all right, so the conference. I was trying to take a picture of Jesus, and then all of a sudden it switched to President Nelson. And look at Jesus in the shadow. Do you see him? Mm-hmm. Isn't that really cute? The symbolism that he's speaking for Jesus. And so he announced 17 new temples. And you all know that for me, 14 is King David, and that's when the lamb is sacrificed. And then the 17 is when Jesus Christ overcomes both sin and death, and it's victory. Woohoo, victory over both death and sin. And he said 3 times at the end, the best is yet to come. The best is yet to come. The best is yet to come. And it just made me smile and be happy. And I was like, yes, the plan of happiness here. And then this was one of my favorite talks, was Emily on this side, Emily Bell Freeman. And she talked about the DNC 25, which was our spiritual treasure talk by President Nelson, and about Emma being a daughter, a divine daughter of God, being elect, and then being a queen. And that's who we get to be as we progress through our covenants in the temple. And somebody did a whole thing about all of General Conference. Isn't it going to be fun to dissect all their talks? But it was so amazing to hear that we're going to just grow as a church until 2034 when the Olympics come. If you read the article about the Salt Lake Temple, we used to have one baptismal font. Now we're going to have two. Back in the day, everything was 13 for our nation and 13 for us. We have 13 articles of faith, 13 things that are blessed that go with Hebrew. But we have 13 symbolism on our eagle. We have 13 berries and 13 olive branches, 13 arrows. And so in our temple, originally there was 13 sealing rooms. Okay, 13 can mean a lot of things, but for 1776, it was rebellion, saying that we're going to have God be our law, not government. But it also means Jesus Christ. He's the stag. And then the antlers, the 6 antlers are the apostles. It could also mean that the tribe of Joseph, Ephraim and Manasseh, and we have the restored gospel of Jesus Christ through the foreordination of Joseph Smith. To be able to do that in 1st Nephi 13 and 2nd Nephi 12. Those are the foreordination. And so I thought it was so exciting that we have 22 sealings. So if you study Hebrew and Greek, there's 22 letters. I believe 11 means Christ and the bridegroom, or the bride or the church. And then when you put them together, they're married. So, and 22 means the husband and wife are together. So for Greek, it's Alpha and Omega. That's the boy. Omega is the girl. And then all the letters in between make the word. So John 1:1 says the word created the earth, right? For Hebrew, it's Aleph and Tav, the male and the female, and then all the letters. So 22 sealing rooms is kind of fun. I'm really sad that they don't have the stag anymore. They take all of the paintings down so that there was a mountain with a stag standing up there being Jesus. But when you walk out of the new Provo City temple, you'll see the stag. If you go to that Draper one over the mountain, when you walk out to leave the temple, you'll see a stag. And that is Jesus Christ, our Savior. So it's exciting that they said that we're going to keep growing, and we're going to, we're right now. My son, thank you so much for praying for my son. I put his name on the prayer list every time he's in Veracruz, Mexico, and he is receiving personal revelation and baptizing so many people by involving the stake presidents and the bishops, and then the people. He has 3 times a week family home evening and invites. They do a mini lesson, games, and then they actually have the members invite them to be baptized, not the missionaries. And it's just been so successful that the mission president thought, what are you doing? Okay, emergency meeting, do what Elder Hirsch is doing. And that was all for my story. Remember Moroni 10, my companion, teaching me that we can ask for the gift of visions, the gift of dreams, the gift of prophecy, the gift of faith, the gift of discernment. We can ask for those. And if you haven't read the very last chapter of the Book of Mormon, and it's not just a challenge of, to read the book, Moroni 10:3-5. Read all of the gifts of the Spirit, okay? And so this guy, Elder Todd Budge. I love that. Yeah. So I don't know. I've been able to, when I was in the MTC, the Japanese man that spoke, his name is Hideki Wada. He was my, Takashi Wada, and he was my my MTC teacher. He wore bright red cowboy boots. He served his mission in Utah, and when he was teaching me in my Book of Mormon, I wrote, he's going to become a general authority. And that happened with me when I had lost 3 babies in California, and this bishop, I knew he was going, and I wrote that too. He's going to become, I also think, Al Jackson eventually would become. But isn't it interesting to write things down and then go back later? So that Takashi Wada's wife, Naomi, was asked to write the word "be still" in Japanese, and that, I think that's why I can see symbolism is from learning Japanese. And the word "manifest" is like meditation, and it's in the Book of Mormon 46 times, which 4 + 6 is 10. A covenant with God, or whole, perfect, and complete. You'll pay attention to those words in conference. They said whole, perfect, and complete in conference. But we need to take time to, that was my lesson with my companion. When I said amen, I jumped up, and my Japanese companion, grabbed my skirt and made me stay down, and I kept peeking, going, what is she doing? Forever. And she was listening, asking for gift of revelation, the gift of prophecy, manifesting, meditating, until she received the answer. And then she showed me Moroni 10, and then she flopped open that map, and she's like, I saw a vision. We're to go here. I'm like, okay, I will listen next time when I pray. When you ask, take the time to meditate and pray. And so I thought that was so magical that this word is be still. Be still, and meditation is good to be able to receive answers for our prayers, okay? So I threw this in at the last second, asked her if I could put it in there. So I read all of the Apocrypha. And there is a foreign nation. I've been reading about, this is one of my books, I've been reading about George Washington. And George Washington actually has a signed copy of the Travels of King Cyrus in the Boston Museum. And what King Cyrus did, and if you read you could either read Isaiah 45, like Trump 45, and that is where King Cyrus is, or you can read all of the Apocrypha of Ezra's, and all of the chapters in First Esdras is all about what King Cyrus did. He was a king of Persia. He did not believe in slavery. He didn't believe that you should have one religion. He had freedom of religion, and he wrote the first human rights charter. And his mom taught him to be sober. If you're going to be a leader, a good king, you're going to be sober, you're going to love your people, and you're going to love mankind, and you're always going to be a truth teller. So that's why George Washington loved King Cyrus. And I believe President Trump also loves George Washington and King Cyrus. And there was the coins I showed you that in 2020 that they did with King Cyrus's face and Trump's face, where the Jews literally said 70 means a nation. And 70 years later, after the first temple was destroyed, King Cyrus allowed them to have religious freedom, let the slaves go. They got to go back, build the wall, build the second temple, and that was a foreign nation in King Cyrus. So George Washington as well, I think, was foreordained. And I also believe Donald Trump has been foreordained because he's doing the same thing. He's working for free like George Washington. And another interesting fact, when we had the Solemn Assembly, remember I fasted and I had this big burning silver date that said February 11th, 1989. And I got up, I couldn't figure it out. Later on, I figured out 1989 was when the fall of communism happened. And the Tiananmen Square, I had served my mission in Japan 87 to 89, but I was in Taiwan during the Tiananmen Square massacre. And they never have gotten rid of communism, but we got rid of communism in Germany and Poland and Romania and those countries, right? And so we're at that point right now of communism, right? If you haven't seen the Reagan movie, go see it. It's about communism. And his mom giving him a book and saying, you have a divine purpose. And then listening to a Russian defector at his church. And then his whole life he was fighting against communism. We are at that cusp. That's why we're teaching the Naked Communist, like why Colette again taught it last week. And so what I believe is that I saw a man's voice as an eagle. And then this is what he says. He was foreordained and he was held back. And this is what he did. He had to tax them openly with their sins, their crimes, and their defiance. First, he will bring them alive to judgment. Then after convicting them, he will destroy them. And I taught a show on Abraham Lincoln and George Washington, Joseph Smith, that Tim Ballard wrote, the Lincoln Hypothesis. And I found an article where I felt like Joseph Smith was the first original Trump. And he went to Van Buren in 1839 after all the horrible things that happened to our people. And he, in a newspaper, said, Van Buren is worse than a dog. He's not loyal to his people, an oppressed and a free people. He's worse than a dog. And I was like, oh, that's like Trump. And then in the end of the article, he said, I'm running for president because I want to make America great again. And I was like, what? And then his little political motto was make honor the standard of all men. And I was like, okay, that's crazy, Okay, so this recently, President Trump actually put this on Truth Social, which is the angel Michael, and it should be a dragon destroying it. But he's talking about destroying our dragons, destroying the evil. And I thought that was a really interesting thing that he did that. So our greatest work, here's Alan Tulane Jackson, are within the four walls of our home. Oops. Okay. Okay, what do I do? Oops. Okay. So the Delphian Society said 10 small discussion groups in the community will do more to create a new way of life than 100 mass meetings with 1,000 in attendance. So these little meetings are what's more important. Hi, Nellie. She's Anna. Anna's been here before. She's from Arizona. Yay! And she's a mom for America. Okay. Whoops. Okay. So to remind you with that first lesson to be anchored in hope, these are the four things we do. We look to God, not government. We prioritize family time. We study the Constitution from the viewpoint of the Founding Fathers. And then the fourth one, do something. And when we do that, we ask God what we should be doing to be part of the solution. And when Jolene was first teaching in 2020, some women didn't even pray. They didn't have faith. So they just started praying. They would get on and talk with Jolene on Zoom and say, my life has changed because now we're praying, we're reading out of the Bible. It might just be something like that. It might be, Jolene now is writing family devotionals to even her married kids. She finds a quote and a scripture, and then she bears her testimony. And isn't that beautiful? So whatever God puts on your heart, and it might be actually to do some legislation if you want to do that. So it's whatever God puts on your heart. So last time we talked about liberty begins at home. That's the second lesson. So the foundation of liberty is created by our founding families. And we talked about how the founders took this pattern of planting seeds. So we're a family, and we're nurturing in the home as parents these planted seeds of faith, virtue, and patriotism. Those are these three pillars of liberty. For some reason I keep hitting that. So President Eisenhower said, Dwight D. Eisenhower, without God, there could be no American form of government, nor any American way of life. Recognition of the Supreme Being is the first and most basic expression of Americanism. If you haven't heard, because they censor President Trump, he constantly talks about God. He's like, in the Declaration of Independence, God is invoked 3 times. Just recently I listened to another one of his, and he's like, we need to pray to God for our safety. He constantly bears his testimony. Virtue. John Adams said, public virtue cannot exist in a nation without private virtue, and public virtue is the only foundation of a republic. So one of the 28 principles and you guys can come up and take that, is only a moral and religious people can maintain a republic, which means a representative form of government. So where you might want to be part of action is Cox is trying to get rid of our caucus in Utah. If he does, it will be like California. They're really red, but they're blue, because the representative form of government is gone. They only have a democracy, which is a mob rule in California. Commie California, that's why I'm here. So if you want to be part of action with that, please tell your neighbors, we need a caucus. We absolutely need a caucus. We will not be a republic. Okay, patriotism. A man's country is not a certain area of land, mountains, rivers, and woods, but it is a principle. And patriotism is loyalty to that principle. So they called it the experiment. We're almost there at the 250th anniversary of our 1776 Declaration of Independence. And that is just an experiment. The longest a republic's ever been able to be maintained is 250 years. When we hit 250 years for September 17th, 1787, that is in 2037 for our Declaration of Independence. And me with 37, which in Hebrew means Jesus. So every time I see a 37, I think of Jesus. Okay, so Benjamin Franklin, a woman come up to him after the convention of the Constitution Convention in Philadelphia and said, what kind of government do we have? And sir, what did you give us? And he said, a republic, if you can keep it. And so
the thing that drives me crazy is if you watch all the pundits, they never use republic.
No.
Our democracy, and I just want to scream.
You do, because
we are not a democracy.
No, we aren't. There's not the word democracy, and President Trump has taught this. He's like, guys, the word democracy is not in any of our founding documents at all. So we are a constitutional republic. Oh, I keep hitting the wrong thing. So principle 2, the best way to ensure this republic, based on God's law, survives is for us to remain morally strong and virtuous. Oh, I keep hitting things wrong, you guys. Okay.
Yeah, I like to just say constitutional republic.
Yep, me too. Okay, so this is George Washington. A primary object should be the education of our youth in the science of government. In a republic, what species of knowledge can be equally important, and what duty more pressing than communicating it to those who are the future guardians of the liberties of our country? So my books, that I'm reading 2 books right now on George Washington. He actually told the mothers, you are the guardians of the republic. You have to teach your children. And same with Thomas Jefferson. And I thought, is that where Trump took the name? Or is it the movie with the Space Force? He calls them the Guardians of the Galaxy. And I thought it was the movie. But he loves George Washington so much. Oh, that's what I was going to say. George Washington's original birthday, and back to my dream, 2/11/1989. Got sidetracked. So 211 is the original birthday of George Washington. And then that was the Julius Caesar's calendar, Julian calendar. And then when they adopted Pope Gregory, or the one we have now, Gregorian calendar, they had to add 11 days. So now it's on February 22. So President Trump literally got the patent for True Social on 2/11/2011. I just thought that was so cool that he honors George Washington, and he is a sober person. His brother died of alcoholism, and bore testimony, don't start anything that's addictive because you won't be able to be who you're supposed to be. God created you who to be, right? And he's on the side of Mary Ann Smith, which is the Ephraim side, and named after Donald Smith, which Donald means world leader, John means grace by God, and he's a trumpet, and he has to tax them with the evil deeds and sins and crimes. And then we have his grandmother's side from Germany, which is Mary Elizabeth Christ, and his dad's middle name is Christ. So that's that side. But it's interesting that he uses the guardians, and we have to use the guardians. Okay, so Winston Churchill. There is no doubt that it is around the family and the home that all the greatest virtues, the most dominating virtues of human society, are created and strengthened and maintained. So we need to make strong families. That's why Satan is tearing at the families. And then if he can't tear at the mom and dad, if they're strong, he's going to tear them at school with the kids or on their phones, right? So we need to learn how to control our children's phones too, right? Okay, so principle 26. The core unit which determines the strength of any society is the family. Therefore, the government should foster and protect its integrity. That's why Colette and Moms for America and any of the other 31 groups, if a legislation comes in that's going to destroy the family, we will say no on this bill, and we'll add our name, our group names. The more groups we have, the stronger we are up on our capital here, as well as our federal, right? And so that we can protect families.
There was a class that did a study assignment that the teacher gave, making a list of what things, do you love about America? And after all the papers were turned in, not one student could think of anything that they could say that they loved about America. Nothing to love about America? I love everything about America. Because in America, you can innovate, you can have ideas, and you can follow your dreams. And the only person that can hold you back is you. I mean, there's no place like it on earth, and I just don't think children realize that today. And I 100% know that we can turn this around in one generation.
One generation.
Because mothers are the last best hope of America. And that's what we do at Moms for America. We are providing that history, that heritage, that love of liberty. We're empowering moms to be able to teach and nurture a love of liberty in their homes, so that we'll have a generation of children who will rise up carrying the banner of liberty, so that we can not just restore the republic, but secure it for generations to come. If you have parental guidance to watch a movie and you can't show something on TV or air it on the radio because you're trying to protect children, why would we not be doing the same thing in the classroom? From city halls to Supreme Court and school boards to Congress, we have had enormous impact over the last several years. Launching the cottage meetings was huge. That has really sparked and ignited the patriotism and activism within moms. We've not only flipped 43 school boards in 27 states, we have moved school board members from one side to the other. In several states, we've been able to get city council members on the city council. We've been able to get county supervisors on. We've supported sheriff's elections. We've been very engaged in Congress level as well as the state level in pushing bills and supporting bills that will protect children from genital mutilation. We've been able to testify through various different legislative bodies and in Congress talking about the importance of protecting women's sports. We've had press conferences. We did a great event with Epic Times, a joint event with them, our gender confusion event, so that we could start to move the needle in the right direction. We have put together a series of booklets on gender confusion, parental rights guide, CRT, the social emotional learning, comprehensive sex education, and they're not just available to moms in English, they're available in Spanish, and we're developing them in Asian languages as well. So this year, by the end of the year, I will have been gone at least 300 days. I have been in 37 states. I just met with moms in Sun Valley, Idaho. And so it's important that we're out there reaching them where they are and not expecting them to come to us. We are
we're coming for your children.
They're coming after families, our freedoms, everything that we hold dear. They're doing it in the schools, they're doing it in culture, they're doing it in video games. Every aspect of our society, everything that used to support us as parents is now going against us. And I am not going to allow any of my children or grandchildren to be a casualty in this war. And I want to reach as many mothers as possible so that they can make sure that their children and their grandchildren are not casualties of this war. God wins in the end, but I'm planning on winning a whole lot of battles in between now and then. Every mission has two parts, those who give and those who do. And when we come together, we are stronger together in fulfilling that mission. An investment in Moms for America is an investment in the future. And we literally hold the future of America in our hands. I pledge allegiance to the flag with liberty and justice for all. Good job.
So, Kimberly has 8 children, and she's a military mom. And those are her family. That was her family and her grandchildren. And they kind of all live near each other now in Bronson, Missouri. But their kids, were all over the place. Mm-hmm.
Are these videos on YouTube?
Yes, they're on YouTube, but they're embedded in my slideshow. So anyone, again, you can give me your email address and I add you to the slideshow, because if you want to have your own meeting with your neighbors to show,
so if we sign one of those slips,
yeah, then tell me on the slip, or you can just tell me afterwards and I'll send you the video, okay? Because I want this information to be shared. It's part of the battle. We are battle ready. President Nelson
Would
uses.
you like me to send it out? To
Yeah,
all
if it will let me. Someone help me with the Google Slides to make sure it opens so it can. We'll try it and see if it does. Because you guys, President Nelson uses battle terms. He uses battle terms. This is a battle. Yes. And moms, we're ready. That's why I wore this one. I wore that one so that we can show we're battle ready. Okay?
If you have Facebook groups with your neighborhoods, maybe not the word ones, but neighborhoods. Some people don't like it being posted there, but it's like this is a unifying thing, and this is.
It can be very much a unifying thing. Katie was going to start hers in her neighborhood. She put it on her Facebook, and some guy has said that Moms for America is a racist. No, a terrorist group. No, we're on the terrorist watch group. What?
MLM.
First said it was an MLM. But no, but he also said something mean after the MLM, like we're a terrorist group. And she's like, no.
Just like Latter-day Saints Life.org.
Yeah.
I gave a packet to our state president. I said, this is not political. This is
not political.
And
these
whole
are
church is having, talks about the Constitution.
We have the 28 principles, right? Those are transcend parties and politics, the 28 principles. Then we can talk to anybody. Okay, so this is Alex de Tocqueville. He came from France and saw the liberty that we had, the experiment that was happening, and this is what he wrote. Righteous women in the circle of influence, beginning in the home, so liberty begins at home, in the four walls of our own home, we can have the power to turn it around. So Tim Scott. The story with Tim Scott is that his mom and dad were divorcing, and he shared a really tender story with his mother on TV. And he had to go move in with his grandparents, and he had to share a room with his mom in the room, and 2 other sons and 2 other boys. And he was really just mad because of the divorce, right? And doesn't get his own home, and he sees her now all the time kneeling at her bedside praying. And he said, "This is where I learned about God. Through my faith and my mom's example of Christianity, I heard her plead for me, plead for my brother, plead." And he said, "I was so touched, she converted me to Christianity." And he goes, so his family went from the cotton fields to Congress because of this mom who had faith in Jesus Christ. And he shared it on national public TV. Isn't that just like Ben Carnes is, bearing his testimony about his mom? Why do I keep doing this, you guys? I need a clicker. So Abigail Adams said, if we mean to have heroes and statesmen and philosophers, we should have learned women. So we need to remember that we have the most powerful influence in our home, even with our husbands, not just our children. And we do it by first educating ourselves. And you guys have been educating yourselves for a very long time. But let's share that with everybody else. So we know we have this divine essential role in God's plan for his children on this earth. And make sure you tell your daughters that they're divine. Make sure you tell your daughter-in-laws. I tried to, when I got my first 2 daughter-in-laws last year, and I called them my daughter-in-laws, trying to help make this connection because I didn't have that with my mother-in-law. So I'm like trying to say, if you have any questions, come to me because you cleave unto my son, and I won't give you advice unless you ask me. And I've been doing that. And my new firstborn baby will be on Wednesday, and I'm still waiting for some questions. And it's been really hard, but I made a promise. I made a promise I'll be that kind of mother-in-law that will be supportive, and you come to me. I'm not going to say you should do this, right? Okay, but we should have learned women, and then that will share. Okay, so there was a woman that went to these. This is the Chartres Cathedral. It's so sacred and special in France that it has a labyrinth, and that size of that labyrinth is equal to the rose window. And if it crashed on the floor, it would fit. And it's exactly the number of stones as your baby is in your belly. And then when you get to the middle, there's 6 lobs because the 6th-day man was created. And then you walk this journey. Just on Fridays, they let you walk this journey. And it's like the journey of life. And you get in the center. And our journey is to change us, right? It's a labyrinth. Yes. And so 40 in Hebrew means testing. So if we have 400 years, testing times 10. They're testing. We're here to be tested, right, in our body. And so this cathedral, the tallest one, is the sun tower, which is the male. And the moon tower is 28 feet lower is the moon tower, and so that's the women. And we have 28-day cycles. The moon controls when babies are born. I'm sure my baby, the super full moon where the moon's the closest to the earth, is next her actual due date on the 17th victory. So I'm waiting to fly in so I could help Anna with her big event, with a Latina event. And Phil Lyman is going to be able to crown the Miss Latina at Thailand High School this Saturday. And so I'm like, I changed my flight because I'm like so confident my granddaughter probably is going to be, the power of the moon is probably going to make her wait till I can get there. But this cathedral is sacred marriage. And she was talking about that nobody knows who these builders are, who built all the symbolism in there. This rare blue is in there. The stem of Jesse is in there with the genealogy of Jesus Christ. And she said, that's just like kind of us as moms. We're invisible. But we do all these things, and you're making a little cathedral. We're making a temple, right? Our bodies are a temple. Our little children, God entrusted in us, are divinely to be the womb to bring those spirit children, to give them bodies. And then we're creating this magnificent temple in our children and our grandchildren. So be praying to God how you can be part of the solution to help your grandchild. And you can start collecting an I Love America library with miracles of the stories of America. Even the bulletproof George Washington story fits with President Trump. He is being protected by God because every one of you, are here for a reason. You are Queen Esther's. You were born for such a time as this. And your children, your grandchildren were born for this time. And so we just need to ask how we can build these cathedrals within us and how we can build them within our children and grandchildren. Oh gosh, I keep hitting the wrong thing. So Proverbs 31, 10 through 31 says, we are told we can find who can find a virtuous woman? Her price is above rubies. And so that's what we are. Our price is above rubies. President Nelson in Do Better, Be Better for the Men told the men that their wives are never ornamental. Her input will increase his output. And he said, you don't have the power of the priesthood if you don't treat your wife with kindness. That's why he called them to repent, to do better and be better. Okay? So Psalms 127:3, children are the heritage unto the Lord. And so we're raising the heritage of the Lord here. We have a divine role. And then 2 Timothy 1, 5 through 7, Timothy's grandmother Lois and Eunice, his mother, had faith in them. And the faith in them is the faith in you, Timothy. So Timothy was talking about his mother and grandmother. And so, we can be that, like I said, the story of if you haven't seen the Reagan movie, it says mom telling him it has a purpose and she gives him a book. Or George Washington, if you were coming late, his mom had given him the Travels of King Cyrus book. and said, you're going to be a leader like King Cyrus. And he has a signed copy, and it's in Boston. And then we have, his Donald Trump at 10 years old. His mom gave him a book, a Bible named after the nephew, Donald Smith. And when he became president, there's a red box. That is Abraham Lincoln's Bible. And then there's a little Bible on top. That's his 10-year-old Bible. He collects Bibles of his namesake, Donald. Joseph Smith was the fourth son, right? Donald was the fourth son. Isn't that interesting? And so when he got angry, when they were burning down that little St. John's Chapel where Abraham Lincoln's pew was, and where all presidents of the United States, except Obama and Biden, Trump didn't tell his Secret Service or anything. He was so mad. And his Bible was on his table in the Oval Room, his revival Bible. And we watched it one time. Maybe we didn't get to watch it. I have the film, but it makes you cry. I just taught on Monday, and everybody was crying with that revival Bible movie. And he just walked across and held up his Bible, saying, we need a revival. We need to start praying for a revival in Jesus. We need Jesus right now to save us. So the promise of the Constitution, we've gone over a lot of that, and that is Pamela Romney Openshaw. And so one of them on the vignette 13.6 on page 292, on that, it talks about Queen Esther in this one. And so if you have this at home, it's page 292, and how she was an example of faith, hope, and charity. So if you go to Catholic cathedrals, they have faith. She always has an alabaster jar. This would be like Mary with the title Magdala, high tower woman, or she has a cross. That's for faith, either an alabaster jar or a cross. If you're for hope, it is actually a anchor. That's her symbol. And for charity, she has 2 or 3 children. Okay, and in France, where they believe they came up in Marie Bellemare and they were saved. I love this symbol. You can buy it on Etsy, but I would love to somehow manufacture it someday and sell them in Deseret bookstores. But it is the symbol. It's a cross. So you've got like a cross, but then it's the anchor, and then in the middle of that, it's a heart. So it's faith, hope, and charity in one symbol. It's my favorite. So think of Queen Esther, and we have all been born for such a time as this. We're in the crossroads, and she knew she had to do something, and she had to be brave. She knew if she approached the king, she could die, right? So right now, I got really scared because I had death threats when I was fighting against the Democrat who's running for president right now. For governor, Senator King. I was fighting in 2011 all the way to 14. I stepped aside in 2014 because I got death threats, kidnapping threats. My son disappeared at church for 2 hours. They took him to go collect fast offerings. No one told me. And I was just like, okay, this was a little scary for me. But now we have an army of people. This is our time. Vote. Do not stay home and vote your values. You need to vote. And tell your neighbors to vote. We have to vote. This is our time to save America. And we have to be courageous. We have to be brave. So this is our time. So here's Queen Esther. Yes. Early voting. Yes. So if you can do it right now, do it now. Don't trust the UPS. So when I was going out, I live in Natalie Clausen's ward. She's running with Phil Lyman. Phil Lyman, not Lyman, because remember, they found 2 other Lymans in there. But also, I was knocking the doors for 100 of the doors in my neighborhood for my area. And we were telling people, don't trust the UPS. Go in and put it in the actual voting location.
USPS.
Yeah, USPS, sorry. So make sure you vote now if you can. Vote now. Yes, and vote early.
Are the ballots out?
No, but in other states, because in Arizona she's from Arizona. Okay. So it's, yeah. So this is, you guys know the story. I found the story before Moms for America because I loved him so much. But Candy's mom, it was a bigamist. She divorced her husband because he was married to another woman. And she had 2 sons. I think she got married at 9 or 10. It was really crazy, really young. She could not read. And so she didn't want her boys to become hoodlums. And they lived in Harlem. So she made them, literally made them. They went to the library, checked out 2 books, and she didn't tell her kids that she couldn't read. And she said, you have to write 2 book reports, and they would look out at the basketball court, out the window, and write 2 book reports every week, and then they could go play.
They made a movie.
Yeah, and then so she just made little marks, and she didn't write things on it because she couldn't read or write. But because of that, they were all successful and found And she also believed and prayed with her children. So she brought Jesus to them. And he's got so many neat books. Yes, and there's the Gifted Hands. There's the movie. Yes. You can watch all that. And so his mom, made a big difference. Okay. So Kimberly Fletcher decided one time, her home had a home that was like, over 200 years of legacy. It was founded in 1849. And she remembers all the stories. Stories really touch. So one of the 12 lessons, I didn't realize, and I ain't even homeschooled. I know we read the Bulletproof George Washington, but I didn't realize that when you have really good speakers at church, they tell a story. So if you need to tell something moral or virtuous to your children, find a story. That's how you touch hearts. It's storytelling. And I didn't learn that until I was going through the 12 lessons of Moms for America. And so she had told her kids all these stories about this beautiful place where she grew up in Pennsylvania. And then she thought, well, gosh, we're right by here. And she stopped by, and the kids, they saw the grave sites and everything, but their kids had no connection because she had not told the stories beforehand. And then she goes, they were gone. Everything was gone except for the grave site. And she's like, so 200 years of history is erased without that. And then Jolene talks about how Al's family, they became free, and then they started buying property, and they end up having 150 acres in Virginia, and then this beautiful home, and so they've been passing on their stories of their land for all those years. And during COVID, they gathered in that home. It was already renovated on the inside. On the outside, the kids all worked together on the outside with gardens and painting, and just really got together and told the rich stories of Al's grandparents and parents and the upbringing. And if we don't do that with our grandkids, they're gonna lose the stories. I think that's why the church wants you to put stories on your family tree so that you don't lose the stories, right? Oops. Okay.
Every year my mom would have us go to the cemetery, whoever could gather, and she would tell a few stories, and we just carry on those things.
And her mom's a masterful storyteller. So we would just remember to think about how you can teach a virtue or a value. Remember, my favorite book is called The Virtues Project. There's 52 lessons, one for a week, and they do come up with, like kindness, and then tell a story about kindness. This is what kindness looks like. This is if you're not successful, and then they give an affirmation. So I'd write the affirmation, and then I would tell my kids, oh, it looks like you're being kind. To point out the goodness in my kids, and I didn't have to prepare a family home evening lesson, and my kids learned really the virtues are 52 virtues of Jesus Christ, because Jesus is the truth of all things. That points us to Jesus. So here's Ronald Reagan. Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on for them to do the same. For one day we will spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it once was like in the United States when men were free. So we don't want that. So on here, at the Constitution Convention, there was a sun on the back of a chair, and they wanted to know, is this a rising sun or a setting sun? Right now, we're on the cusp of the setting sun of America and freedom and liberty. So that's why it's the most important election this year, and the most important to get the word out. So the forgotten American stories I love is Lydia Wallace Nuttall. And so last time we didn't get to we got to the story of Francis Key, but we didn't get to the story of the Statue of Liberty. But if you remember, he used courage because he went and asked for a doctor who was helping the other side. He was helping. It didn't matter whether you were on Great Britain side or the colonist side. He was helping fix people up as a doctor. But then they put him on a boat where he was a prisoner. And so he was a lawyer, so he used his courage and went and asked him if he could be set free. And they said yes. So he's on the boat right when this big battle. They couldn't get off because this battle in Boston. And they didn't know whether we were going to be free or not. And it was according to this woman had made at the very end this giant flag, and they placed it up, and that's when he wrote the Star Spangled Banner. Remember how touching that was? So he used courage. So the virtue of courage. I just want you to know that the U.S. Constitution, so Article 4, so think 4 and 4, Section 4 says, the United States shall guarantee to every state in this union a Republican form of government. So all these Democrats saying a democracy, it's in our Constitution. Article 4, Section 4. So you'll sound so smart If you just know, the United States guarantees to every state in the Union a Republican form of government. We can use that against Cox if he takes our caucus away. Okay? All right. So, the Statue of Liberty. And Benjamin Franklin says, where liberty dwells, there is my country. Oh, gosh, I cannot make this thing work without a... Okay. Do you like AI? My husband, I'm like, hey, can you make AI like a Statue of Liberty a mom?
I've never tried anything AI.
I can't do it. But my husband did, and I'm like, okay, we're a superwoman, and the flame is enlightenment. We're empowered. We're enlightened. And now we're going to learn the symbolism of it. But my name, again, on social media is Tami Liberty. As I just feel so... the word liberty, land of liberty in the Book of Mormon is 6 times. The 6-day man was created. God created us to come to earth, to be tested, to be in a land of liberty. So I love liberty.
It's different than freedom.
Yes,
freedom is different than
yes. So we're going to talk. This is the Statue of Freedom, and we'll talk about that less. Okay.
Did you know that there was an actual in the 1800s a drawn one of those with
yes.
the Lady Liberty?
Yeah. Okay. So this woman's face right here. This is the sculptor's mother. That's her face. That's her. So he decided to make Statue of Liberty his mom. Isn't that cool? Since we're talking about moms, right? I think that's really cool. Okay. So we're going to watch a little. I'm going to scoot this forward just a tad. Okay.
Located in New York Harbor, the Statue of Liberty is one of the most recognizable landmarks in the world. But what is it doing there? And where did it come from? Officially called Liberty Enlightening the World, the Statue of Liberty was a gift to America from the French in 1886 as a representation of international friendship.
Okay, I want to remind you that so that the idea, it's going to come up. The idea of making the Statue of Liberty was 1865. Does anyone know what happened in 1865?
The end of the Civil War.
Yeah.
Yes, and?
Lincoln was killed.
Lincoln was killed.
Yeah.
Okay, so the French really saw that, what if with this assassination, this is the end of America? So then the French decided, well, what can we do to help support, because it helped their French Revolution. So they're like, what can we help buoy up America to want to have liberty? And it's the Statue of Liberty, okay?
They also saved our bacon.
Yes, they did. If we didn't have them, we wouldn't have won, the French.
But its story really began more than 20 years earlier, in 1865, when Frenchman Edouard de Laboulaye proposed that France should create a monument for the United States. It would be a long time before Laboulaye's dream was realized. It wasn't until 10 years later that the sculptor Auguste Bartholdi was commissioned to design the statue. The American people agreed to pay for the pedestal for the statue to stand on, while the French people would fund the Statue of Liberty itself. But raising enough money was difficult. The statue was completed in France in 1884, almost 10 years after it was commissioned, but the pedestal wasn't finished for another 2 years in April of 1886. The statue was transported in 350 individual pieces, which were packed in 214 separate crates. Once the pedestal was completed, it took 4 months to reassemble the statue.
Mom.
Finally, on October 28, 1886, President Grover Cleveland dedicated the Statue of Liberty, an event celebrated by bands, parades, speeches, and fireworks. The Statue of Liberty quickly became a famous landmark. For many immigrants who came to the United States through New York, it was their first sight of their new country. For others, it symbolized the idea of freedom that America was built on. The statue depicts a woman in a robe, representing Libertas, the Roman goddess of liberty. She has a crown on her head with 7 points, said to represent the 7 seas or the 7 continents of the earth. She is holding a stone tablet in one hand, which reads July 4th, 1776 in Roman numerals, honoring the date of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. In her other hand, she holds high a flaming torch covered in gold leaf. The Statue of Liberty itself is covered in a layer of copper less than 2 pennies thick. Originally, the statue was the same bright copper color as a new penny, but after less than 20 years of standing out in the sun and the rain, the copper began to oxidize, turning her the green color we recognize today. The statue weighs 450,000 pounds, or 225 tons, and stands over 151 feet or 46 meters high, not including the pedestal she stands on. With the pedestal, from the ground to the tip of the torch, the Statue of Liberty stands as tall as a 22-story building. About 4 million people visit the Statue of Liberty every year. Those who go inside it can see a poem by Emma Lazarus, written to help raise money for the construction of the pedestal. It reads in part, "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, the tempest-tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door." Now nearly 130 years old, the Statue of Liberty has long been a symbol of hope and welcome to people seeking freedom and a new life in America, as well as a symbol of the friendship between France and the United States. It is now also a World Heritage Site, which means that it is considered so special and important that it should be protected and preserved for people all around the world to enjoy. I hope you enjoyed learning about the Statue of Liberty today. Goodbye till next time.
Okay, so this is Frederic Auguste Bartholdi, and his virtue was perseverance to do this. We're going to watch a little short thing about Rick Steves. I'm going to tell you about, there's a place called Comar, and he created also a smaller statue, and he devoted his life to blessing his country with this statue that he believed makes America great. The smaller statue, it has these great pillars holding up a world, and it trumpets the same values of hard work, education, justice, and patriotism.
Bonjour, I'm Rick Steves, and I'm in Comar. Comar is just a gorgeous city. And when you're in a town like Comar, you've got all sorts of art and culture to check out. For instance, here is Auguste Bartholdi, the man who made the Statue of Liberty. And he was born here, and he's got a museum here. And when you know where to step in, your visit becomes much better. This is the Bartholdi Museum, the man who gave us the Statue of Liberty. And here we have one of his statues. This is called the Great Pillars of the World.
The Great Pillars of the World.
It's important to understand the great art that we're looking at, the context. This was 1902. Think of the positive energy, the feet striding forward, the characters supporting the world. Who are they? They're hard work. Hard work with intellectual endeavors, holding his books, hard work with that hammer of the industrial age. We've got justice, very important. After all the revolutions of the 19th century.
She's got her scales of justice.
Justice there with her scales, pitching in. And we've got patriotism. Look at patriotism. Holding his flag, but also holding his sword.
He's got the laurel wreath of
right
peace,
now, but it can be pulled out
but he's ready to come.
So here we have a beautiful piece of art by Bartholdi. And when we understand that this was his philosophy, and we understand the context of the age, 1902, 12 years before Mr. Patriotism gets out of hand and Europe falls into World War I. But that was a positive time. And we can see great art and appreciate it in our travels. That's our goal. Happy travels from Alsace, France, Comar.
Comar, France.
Museum of Bartholdi. Merci, Monsieur Bartholdi.
Okay. All right. So again, I wanted to go over what the symbolism was. So those 7 rays are the 7 continents, or the 7 seas, And when she has her right hand up, that's her covenant right hand. And that flame means enlightenment, or it means wisdom, or it means illuminated. So when you see the Capitol building and across the street is the Library of Congress, it just has a giant flame, the same thing. And you'll see the head statues of our founders around the front and the sides of that Library of Congress. And then when it's night, right around here, they illuminate. You just don't see their faces, but these men are illuminated. So when we go into that Library of Congress, that's where all of our books, even our genealogy, are there. You can go and research and get a free library card. And then what they didn't show on the video is on the bottom of her feet is a broken shackle and chains to represent freedom from oppression, tyranny, servitude, slavery. And they didn't show that on the video. And then the tablet with that little shape, I don't know if you noticed the shape was kind of like in and up like this, is a different instead of just that way. That's an ancient Roman tablet that means eternal life. So is that cool that this statue, hopefully, this freedom of liberty should be eternal, that we should have this flame of eternity and to seek freedom from God eternally. And then the Roman numerals, again, July 4th, 1776. She faces southeast to welcome the New York harbor. Most temples face southeast, so it's a type and a pattern. And again, the covenant right hand and this flame of freedom. And it's 24 karat gold leaf, and the sunlight reflects the gold during the daytime. And then 15 means redemption in Hebrew. 16 means salvation. 16 floodlights light the torch. And if you see the little rays on the bottom underneath the pedestal, there's 11. That means Christ, or the bridegroom, or the bride of the church. It's, you can go inside where her crown is too. So there's a lot of challenges. So when he first made a model, he made it 1/16 the size. So the first model was 9.5 feet, and then he took that and then he made it the next size and the next size and the next size. But he wanted it 100 years later, and from 1776 he wanted there in 1876. So he only was able to ship the covenant right arm with the torch. But that is cool, a covenant torch of eternal freedom and wisdom and enlightenment and empowerment, because we're free. Governments didn't control us. Our rights come from God. And I thought that was really cool. So we talked about the copper and the 2 pennies width. And he had a problem with how is he going to put the skin on without it collapsing. And that's when he met Eiffel, who made the Eiffel Tower. And Eiffel was able to be able to help him figure out how to put this skin on with these iron ribs. And so they teamed up together to make that. But he persevered. Every problem that came up, he would pray about things, and then he would receive an answer and persevere to figure out what to do it. So he came to, Bartholdi came to America in 1847 to look for the site, and he saw Bedloe's Island as soon as the New York harbor, and he said, this is the place, kind of like in Utah, right? This is where we're going to put it. The island was the perfect for the scale of the project, was the best location to welcome all to America. And so they renamed it in 1956 Liberty Island. And then the next challenge is in 1875 to complete it in time for the 1876. That's what I was saying. He accomplished just the arm and sent the arm, right? The covenant right arm. And then there was 350 individual sheets of copper, and they had to use these little rivets or bullet pins to put them through, and they were able to figure that out to be able to put the skin on. And then how would they move a 156-ton statue from Paris to America? And that's when they put it in the 214 crates and came here. And then the Statue of Liberty stood on this island. It was the largest man-made structure at the time, but how can they protect it from lightning? And they said it could pass through the skin and it would go into the ground, and then things wouldn't be damaged. And okay, so was that my last question? Okay, so I have never got to see the Statue of Liberty yet in person, and I really, really do want to go one time. Yeah, I want to go and do a little field trip and go there, because every time you're around these beautiful things and people are trying to say fake things about it, destroy it, she's evil. No, she's not. She's a symbol of liberty and enlightenment and of Jesus breaking the chains, eternal life even with the tablet, okay? So, Statue of Freedom is on the Capitol building. So this is the Statue of Liberty, and we're going to learn about her name is Freedom, Triumphant in War and Peace. So she's got a shield, she's got a sword, but it's tied. So it's ready to be used too, but it's like the same if his is being shielded. Then she's got a laurel wreath of peace, but then she's got her shield. I thought it was so amazing that her helmet, and we're going to talk about, it wasn't going to be a helmet at first. It's called a liberty cap was going to be on first. But this helmet has 9 stars. So on our eagle of our symbol, we have 9 feathers on the eagle, and then everything 13. Well, our 9th thing that's blessed in our temple is our breasts, and it's a compass and a square. And so that is a male and a female. And in the Bible it says they'll be nursing kings and queens. I believe Jesus, when his title is the Son of Man, that is the 6th day man was created. We're 6s on this earth. Moroni 3:19 says the natural man is an enemy to God. And we every day have a choice to be like a man or a beast, natural man, or to be a builder like Jesus and try to develop his virtues, right? And when Jesus saw Mary and he says, don't hold me not, don't touch me not, he had to ascend, and I believe you become a 9. As above, so below. Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering, the 13 stars is the 13 original columns.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
When they went to the Philadelphia for the signing,
Convention.
not the declaration, the
Convention.
the convention, 9 states signed on.
Mm-hmm.
It took a while to get them all, and Rhode Island was the last.
Yes.
I'm wondering if the 13 and the 9
that's
is representative of that.
Oh, that would be good. Because
Yeah.
I'm like going, I know what 9 means, but no, that could possibly...
Yeah, because it was 9 that originally signed on, and it took.
This is why you want to study history. So
Yeah.
there's 9 here, and maybe that's why there's 9 in the symbol of the eagle too.
Yeah,
the
I'm sure
9
it is.
feathers, right?
Yeah.
So that's beautiful. Okay, this is just really short to give you a little bit more.
Hi everybody, welcome to another episode of Bridge from the Past. This series is all about using primary source images as a way to explore important topics in American history and civics. I'm your host, Mary, and today we're taking a closer look at the U.S. Capitol building in Washington, D.C. What does this structure, and more specifically the statue on top of the dome, reveal about the relationship between liberty and laws? Let's jump in and see.
So liberty and laws. Start thinking about liberty and laws and what this means.
About the relationship between laws and liberty, and what we can tell about this important relationship by looking at the U.S. Capitol building, and specifically the statue on top of the dome. So here's the U.S. Capitol as seen from the west side at night. So before we go into the statue, just a quick note on the Capitol building itself. Before Washington, D.C. was even built, when it was actually pretty much just a swamp, and plans were being made for a new capital city, Pierre Charles L'Enfant, who was the man who designed the new capital city, planned for the legislature, the Congress, the Capitol building, to sit on a hill. Well, right off the bat, you have the place where the laws are going to be made sitting on a pedestal, like it has an elevated position in our government. And George Washington, in writing to Thomas Jefferson in 1792, said that the Capitol ought to be upon a scale far superior to anything in this country. So this is what the Capitol looks like today. Of course, it didn't even exist in 1792 when George Washington was writing this, but you can still see this idea of your eye being drawn upward, right? You have this beautiful dome, almost looks like a wedding cake. You've got this great statue that we're going to be looking at closely in just a second. So you can see it's an important place. It's white. It's literally glowing in the night. The American flag is flying right in the middle of it. So this is clearly meant to be an important place, a sacred place that's all about making laws by the consent of the people. So let's look at the statue on top of the dome. Whenever you see a primary source, it's important to make some observations. So if you're using your organizer, you can pause here and write down some of your own thoughts. Some of the things that I noticed right off the bat are that she has a sword. It's a she, I'm assuming it's a woman. She's wearing sort of this classical dress. She's holding, it looks like a book and wreath in her hand. And I'm also noticing this
It's not a
really
book.
cool
She later
headdress.
realizes it's not a book.
And some questions I have right away are, how big is she? I can see that she's on top of the Capitol, but I don't really know what that means because it's so high up. The perspective might be off. And what do all of these, elements of her dress, of the way that she's standing and what she's holding, what sort of symbols do they mean? The official name of the sculpture is Freedom Triumphant in War and Peace, although she's usually just referred to as the Freedom Statue today. So kind of like the Statue of Liberty, this is a depiction of something, an abstract concept. So instead of liberty, in this case, she's representing freedom. And freedom is triumphant in war. You can see she has, she's holding a sword, and it's not out, as if to say, I could use this sword if I need to. She also has a shield here. So I thought it was a book at first, but it turns out, if I look closer, it's a shield, and it has stars and stripes. It's the shield of the United States. And she is holding in her hand a wreath of laurel. So this is a symbol that dates back to ancient Greece and Rome, a symbol of triumph, of victory that was awarded to someone
2,000-year-old
after
symbol.
Competing in the games. So she's triumphant in war, in peace. She's representing the United States. The brooch here on her dress, it says US. And I can see she's got this almost like fur-trimmed cape over her, and lots of folds and pleats in her garment, again, hearkening back to antiquity. But I'm also really struck by her headdress. The headdress is something that definitely looks a little bit different than the crown, say, on the Statue of Liberty. So right here, there we go, you can see it a little bit better. So on her headdress is an eagle. You can see the eagle, sort of its mouth, its beak is open as if it's like, making us a cry. On either side of her head, you have the eagle's talons, which are really formidable, and you can see the feathers, of course, coming down her back. And she also has these stars, so it's like a helmet made of stars and an actual eagle. And this was done by the sculptor as a nod to the headdress of an American Indian, but also to say that this is something. It's not just antiquity, it's not just Greece and Rome, it's something very new, it's something very American, and it's something very powerful, right? These talons, the bird as if it's calling, are meant to show the power of freedom and the importance of freedom by sitting on top of the Capitol dome itself. So here she is on her pedestal, and you can see on her pedestal, it's cut off here, but it says E pluribus unum, so out of many one,
Out
the
of
motto of the
many
United
ones,
States.
right? Out of
you
many
can also
ones.
see there's more laurel wreaths at the base of the pedestal.
So laurel
and they are
wreaths
underneath
apiece.
something called a fasces. And these are bundles of rods that symbolize the authority of law.
Law.
And you also
Those
see
bundles,
these in
law.
the seal of the United States. The eagle is holding a fasces in one of his talons. So there's a lot of symbolism here showing the power of freedom, the power, the strength
13
of
of
the
those
country, and
fasces
how
for the
important
13 colonies.
this concept would be or should be in the creation of laws in the new country. We started by asking about the symbolism, or what we could learn about the relationship between laws and liberty by looking at the U.S. Capitol, and specifically the Statue of Freedom on top of its dome.
Okay, so that they're trying to show that we get we can become one. The states, those colonies, those 13 colonies can become one if we always look to God, and it's through we the people. So their laws were trying to be just, but always making sure that they were founded in God's law, natural law, right? And so we're not going to be the first instigators of war, but we'll be prepared, like Bartholdi's other one with the statue that we went in France in Colmar. And so I think it's so sacred to see these statues. This large statue, you can go underneath. If you visit the White House, you can go
It's
in.
cool.
And
It's
it's a
huge.
giant replica of her, and you can see how beautiful she is.
Yeah.
And so there's a little bit more history.
Hi, everybody.
So this is over 2,000 years old. So this hat, if you were a slave, they would give you this libertas hat. It was called a pellis hat, and they gave it to slaves who were freed. And so they would wear this hat. So the original design, they had a laurel wreath here and that, and then they said it wasn't tall enough, the pedestal didn't do. So then they decided to put the laurel, this one on, the Liberty hat on. This is a coin. See how there's a Liberty hat, and then there's a rod to no longer would there be a rod to force the slaves to do things, but there would be liberty. And during that time, there was the strife between the Civil War. So they were going, if we put the Libertas hat on there might be a major war. This is before Civil War, right? They're trying to design the design, but then it got made during the Civil War. So,
Just noticing that calf looks like the one that was on Jehu and the carvings that they had when he went down on the ground.
Jehu.
Yes.
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 So, because it's an over 2,000-year-old, so I'll show you more about the liberty, okay? Okay. So, all right, her freedom. Now, she doesn't have the Libertas cap or the Apelles cap. She has the freedom and liberty cap with a helmet, and also 9 is associated with, like I said, heaven and eternity, and also could be the 9 states. This is when Brutus and Cassius, this series of books that I love so much, this author, I would buy the Christopher Columbus one, Guinevere Foster. It's really easy to read to your grandchildren, and it's so good. I read the Julius Caesar one, I read the Christopher Columbus one, and here's George Washington's World, and it's really well done. I would buy that for kids and teens and me. I love him. But this is the Ides of March, which we know through the Shakespeare that Cassius and Brutus murdered Julius Caesar because he's married to Cleopatra, who is telling him he's like a god. That's the end of the Republic, okay? Notice that he's got a liberty cap on a stick because he's saying we want liberty, because he was starting to act like a king, a tyrant. And so they use that. So this king, this French king, when they had the revolution, look at all their sticks with their liberty caps over here. And then they forced the king to wear the liberty cap. To like, let us go. We feel like we're slaves, with the feudal system. And so the king was forced to wear the liberty cap. And then this is the famous painting with the woman who's leading, and she has a liberty cap on. I don't know why it got cut off. And that was the Bonne Rouge is what they called it, the liberty cap. And there's a liberty cap here, and that's over the Senate pennant. So we still have things like that. And then this is a liberty cap with this woman. There's 13 maidens that are painted above George Washington, and he's sitting on the throne. He's got his covenant right arm, but his sword of truth, because he always believed in truth-telling. That's why I'm so happy to see that Donald Trump got the patent on George Washington's real birthday on 2/11 for Truth Social, so that we can get truth out, because we're being censored.
And she's on his left.
Well, when you're facing that way, it's right arm. So when you're looking down from the Capitol, you're going to see this in a little bit in this. You look up, it's called the apotheosis of George Washington, and that means he becomes like God. So he's sitting on a throne, and you'll see parts of a covenant rainbow, covenant with God. If you read Tim Ballard's book, we're a covenant nation, right? We have a covenant destiny. And when you look down, there's a sun on the floor. They don't let you walk on this golden sun. The next level of the Capitol is a moon and then stars. The stars is where George Washington's body was supposed to be buried, but he wanted his body to be in Monticello. And so they actually had 3 degrees of glory all over. If you go on a tour in D.C., it's really sacred and special.
And that whole idea of the divine right of kings goes way back.
Go back to, it goes back to what?
Oh, it goes way back to Egypt and having the sundial with the representation of Christ, of Jehovah.
That Jesus is a son.
Right of kings is what caused a lot of the wars in Europe, because they took that. They didn't take it as like a King Benjamin. They took it as to rule over in the usurpation of power.
No, he's a son of God. That's what he said, that George Washington's like a son of God. We all are. Right? Okay, yep, we're sons and daughters of heavenly parents. So this is just a short, I'm going to just scoop a little bit.
There? Well, I know. I've been there. So let me show you.
You can't go up there now.
It's Jim on YouTube.
It's Jim on YouTube.
It's Jim.
Jim on YouTube.
The U.S. Capitol in Washington, D.C., an amazing piece of architecture. Back in the 1990s, before 9/11, members of Congress could take tour groups up to the top of the rotunda. I was invited by Representative Jim Colby, who served in the House for many years.
Okay, so we're going to skip where they're walking up these stairs, and then I want you to get to about,
and land on the first visitors gallery. There, you're in a narrow aisle with a great view of the rotunda and large windows behind you. You don't feel claustrophobic. Looking down, you see people below. The great painting, Apotheosis of Washington, is above your head.
That's in which one?
You continue upstairs.
The top of the Capitol dome, where freedom sits on top.
Outer dome and inner dome. It looks more like the hull of a ship than a DC landmark. The large trusses curve up and hold the inner dome and outer dome bolted together in a remarkably simple engineering design. To see behind the beautiful coffers in the rotunda is amazing. The staircase winds through the trusses, making its way to the second visitors gallery.
Notice the rainbow.
Painting,
see the rainbow?
it's simply breathtaking. We're now 180 feet above the floor, 18 stories, and we're not technically to the top yet.
Can you imagine painting up there?
Oh yeah. So
Woo!
this painting
Oh,
right
that's scary.
there, that painting, she's Libertas. She's got her Liberty hat on too. And then there's George Washington in the green up here. And then there is the Covenant Rainbow. Do you see that?
Reminds us of Joan of Arc
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Captain Ronai probably being
Yep. So yeah, and she's got, it's like what Trump put with the angel Michael stepping on the dragon or stepping on the man. He's saying that we are now, it's our time to act in different ways. Action, go vote. not fight, action. Okay? Time for us to destroy the beast.
Jim Coley explains how you can talk as loud as you want up here. No one on the ground can hear a word because of the elliptical slope of the dome. The apotheosis of George Washington
There we
by
go.
painter
That's
Constantino
prettier.
Bernini took 11...
Okay, there's a more beautiful. There is freedom, the Statue of Liberty, right there with her shield up, her stars, her eagle on her head. There's her sword, and she's stopping the cabal down there.
We need you back.
We need freedom. She's in war. So how do we as mamas and grandmas get involved? We need to ask God how we could be part of the solution to be involved in this war on our children. Okay. In this covenant land.
To complete. Bernini is called the Michelangelo of the Capitol.
That's it. What you
Bernini
see.
sat
Look
on the
how
chair
beautiful.
on scaffolding and hand-painted all 4,664 square feet.
That's in the rotunda area with all the paintings around.
Yes. And then you
In the
look
center,
up.
Washington is shown ascending into heaven like a god, surrounded by the 13 colonies.
It was in the video.
The detail work up close is spectacular.
I want a tour.
I've been here.
But not up
Now
there.
to the final stairway that takes you as far up as you can go. The balcony beneath the Statue of Freedom gives you a breathtaking 360-degree view of Washington, D.C.
Look at that. That's the National Mall. Okay, so we went, Anna, Nellie was with me, and when we were there fighting kitchen table lobby with General Flynn's against the East Act that I've told you about. So we rented bikes and everything's lit up at night, and we rode our bikes and we saw the statue of Abraham Lincoln, and it says in this temple. If you go to the National Archives, not the library, but where all the founding documents are, you're going to see Hoover actually said in this temple. You'll start seeing the word temple, which is a template or a pattern. So our temple is a template for us to cast off that natural man, that beast, and become more like Jesus and learn how to ascend. And DC has just got so many secrets of lovely things, so that we can be, we can understand that our rights do not come from government. Our rights come from God, and our Savior is Jesus Christ, who is the person who paid for our sins. He is victorious, and if we accept Jesus Christ and have faith in Him, cast off fear. No fear. Don't let fear come in your life. Remember the kanji. Of conference of be still and ask, I can do all things in Christ, and cast off that fear so you can manifest goodness, and then share that with your children. Yes.
And like our prophet said, that the government is on His shoulders.
Mm-hmm. Yes, the government is on His shoulders. So I bring a message of peace and hope and empower the moms and have faith that we have. The best is yet to come, he said 3 times. The best is yet to come. The best is yet to come. And we know that the Savior is returning soon. And we can not be afraid of that. We can be prepared in all things. And let's just keep telling our kids and our grandkids the story of our families. And then also the stories of our founding fathers. And like right now, I'm trying to prove my patriot. Because in Nauvoo, on my husband's side, there's a house called the Hatch House, and it says there's a Revolutionary War plaque on there. So I'm trying to get my daughter in the Daughters of the Revolution, you know, and it would be so fun. My mom is the Daughters of Utah Pioneers, and I'm not. I haven't got into it, and I'm like, I need to find my patriots and my genealogy. I could not find my relativefinder.org, my patriots, my Mayflower people, or my declaration or my Constitution. I was really sad. I thought they took it off, but then when I went online, I found them. So my daughter just recently had to do her project, and my husband's side, he's direct descendant of John Howland. This is a story of John Howland. John Howland, and when you listen to Tim Ballard tell about this story, there's one particular, oh, there it is. So there's our genealogy. And so he's directly descendant of John Howland. John Howland is directly descended of Joseph Smith. He's only around and he's 19 years old. Elizabeth Tilley's 13 at the time. When she's 16, she marries him. Elizabeth Tilley is related to Emma Smith. So on my husband's side, he's related to both directly as the ninth great-grandfather. Ninth great-grandfather, and the ninth great-grandmother is Elizabeth Tilley. And so here he is. He falls off the boat in a storm, and it says right here, down, down I went into the darkness, under the icy waves. It was quiet down there, no raging wind or rain like up above. A strong current was dragging me deeper and further away from the ship. The deeper it got, and soon I was feeling the cold. I just wanted to shut my eyes and go to sleep for 100 years. Wake up, John, said my mother's voice. He kept hearing her. Wake up, dreamer. Far above, I saw the Mayflower's keel. I thought, that's my ship. She's taking me to America. A flash of lightning lit up a long rope trailing down from the ship. He grabbed onto it. He pulled himself over toward it, and his lungs were bursting now. He caught hold of the rope, held on tight in the freezing water, and luckily for me, one of the crew had seen me fall overboard. Bob and his sailor boys hauled me in like a big fish. Then they were shouting and scolding me and rolling me over a barrel to get the seawater out of my lungs. I have no recollection of what happened after that or over the next few days, but Roger told me that my master had me brought to his cabin, and his mistress, Carver, herself nursed me till I was well. He was an indentured servant on the boat. So Tim Ballard says, had he not been on the boat, we wouldn't have the bloodline of Joseph Smith, which is 1 Nephi 3 and 2 Nephi 3. I mean, 1 Nephi 13 and 2 Nephi 3 tells about the forward nation of Joseph Smith coming forward through the line of Lehi's line through to Joseph, through down to Joseph who was sold in Egypt, and that his father would be named Joseph as well. Cool. And so that's the end. Thank you. So if you want any of these things, any of these free things, if you want your young daughters, 12 and up, we're going to be doing a class at Sage and Plow. And there's Grammy Grizzlies, the free digital downloads, or visit.
Did you about March 1st?
Oh, not yet, because I don't. But I'll tell you guys. Don't put it on the video yet, because it's not all quite pat. So So there is an October 24th that I put on the slideshow, right? That's going to be that event. March 1st, we're doing Liberty Begins at Home. It's going to be at Leahona Preparatory Academy, and it will start around 9.
That's in American Fork.
Yes, American Fork. It's not too far from here. And it's a big, giant theater, like 480 seats. It's called Liberty Begins at Home, about 9 o'clock until about 3:30, 9:30 to 3:30. And we're hoping to have, Al and Jolene will teach. We'll have husbands and wives teach. I'm going to try to do Freedom Loving Mom T-shirts, and I'm hoping to get Tim Ballard and his wife to come speak, hopefully, because I really, he's proving that everything was false, right? And I trust him, and he always went to go save the children because of her having visions and dreams and saying, honey, you need to go. But it's a war. I don't want to go. Go, honey. And so, he works really well with his wife. And we want to empower not just moms, but dads too. So dads to come. So I think last weekend at that Sage and Plow, I found a guy who wrote a book. We're going to have him test him out. He wrote What I Want My Children to Know Before I Die, because when his mom died, he wanted his kids to know his testimony. And now he's written How to Be a Dad, because some of our dads are forgetting, they're making the moms be the disciplinarians too. And then it's just the kids just love the dad because he just comes and plays with them, right? And we don't have the protector dad, so we're having to take both roles of of this, and so he's like, I see a need where the dads need to be taught to be like Captain Moroni, to be taught how to be dads. So I was like, okay, let's test him out at Sisters, and then hopefully he's really good, because I went to the March for Kids, and they had, Moms for America just have one guy, if I can't get him, his name's Jaco, and he's helping with child sex trafficking, and a pastor, and he gets up there, and there's just very few men in the, Al was there, my husband was there, but very few men in the audience, and we're there to protect kids, and he said, why do we have mostly women here? Where's our men? They're supposed to be the protectors. And then he said, what I'm seeing is that men are enslaved with pornography. And because of the enslavement of pornography, they cannot see women, and they cannot see her worth, and they cannot protect because of that sin. And so he called them to repent, and I'm like, I need him to come speak. And then invite husbands and wives. I'm like, we need more boldness and courageousness over the pulpit in that area to make our men be those protectors, and see women and who we are and our divine nature and who we are. But anyway, so do put that on your calendar, March 1st. So we have about 480. Let's get it filled, and we'll make it really cheap to come. We just have to cover the cost, the $1,000 it costs to get in there, and then we'll figure out maybe a box lunch for maybe $10.
What's it for?
So it's to empower us mommies, to teach us, and I'll have some other, some speakers. So like, I think we're having, so Kimberly Fletcher's daughter has written a book. One part of our website, if you look on Liberty Trips, you can click on Utah and all the Liberty trips you can do and places you can go. So she's written a children's book with a dog named Liberty and a cat named Freedom, a little orange kitty named Freedom. And so she'll talk about her Liberty books. And so one thing that these 12 lessons do is empower us to want to be a little better mom or a better grandma, because that's what I did here with Colette. I don't know if you guys remember, she was like 2.
Lena.
I took Lena, she was 2, and was busy back on the table letting her color so I could just be fed, because I was so depleted being a homeschool mom of 4 boys. And I just was depleted. I needed moms. I prayed Julene in my life, because I had no one, even though I lived in my ward, everybody had their families, and I felt so alone. And I prayed for a friend, and then Julene's like, do you want to come to Sisters Liberty? What's that? Yes. And I found my tribe. So we need to build our tribe and build our tribe and build our tribe. And that's how we're going to take America back. Yeah. And so we can ask questions, and we can say, okay, oh, my granddaughter's suffering with gender dysphoria. Where's the resources so that I know how I can talk to her or bear testimony to her that there's questions. It's okay. It's normal for a while. And we have lots of free resources, and that's what Kimberly does. She's being used by as an instrument in the Lord's hand, because every single webinar, you can go on there and find a webinar that will help you, and that will, whatever question or problem you have, if you ask me, I can show you what webinar, because I try to watch all the webinars, and I'm just blown away going, gosh, there's so many free resources here. And there's free lessons for homeschool moms, for kids, or a grandma. If you're babysitting for a day, you can take one of the lessons and teach free off of the website. You can teach your little grandchild. And when you do that, when you teach truth, you feel love. And that's how we spread love and liberty is through Jesus. So anyway, say it's the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you.